The biggest anthropomorphism that is used in our industry is probably dominance theory. So, dominance originally came into play in animal behavior when we, as animal scientists, there was a specific animal scientist that was studying, I believe it was chickens, it was some type of bird, and discovered this concept of a pecking order. So, there's the chicken on top, chicken A, and chicken A would peck all of the other chickens. And then chicken B would peck all the other chickens except for chicken A. And then chicken C would peck everybody except for chickens A and B, and so on and so forth. So there's this linear hierarchy, this dominance tier of chickens, right? This pecking order, which is where that term comes from as well. So this idea of dominance of pecking order has to do with this concept that certain animals have higher status socially and are dominant over the other animals. With equines, that is not at all the case. They have a very fluid dynamic when it comes to access to resources and interactions. They all have their own personalities, but aside from personality and learning history and whatnot, horses are going to interact in a variety of different ways and do not exist in this linear hierarchy type form. So, for example, you might see two horses. We'll say you see Sweetheart and Harry go up to the water trough, and they're both approaching the water trough, and Sweetheart pins her ears and throws her head at Harry, and Harry backs off and goes, oh, never mind. And Sweetheart gets the water first. And a lot of traditional equestrians would go, oh, Sweetheart is dominant because she exhibited that interaction. So Sweetheart must be dominant over Harry. However, the reality is what was happening there was called resource guarding. They both were going for one resource, and Sweetheart said, oh, I want this resource really bad. So she gave Harry some distance increasing signals that told him to back off, that told him to create distance or else. And then Sweetheart was able to gain access to the resource first. So in this situation, if you want to anthropomorphize that and you want to put that dominance label on it, which researchers have tried to do with horses, ethologists that come from traditional equestrian backgrounds have tried to go out and apply these dominance theory labels, and this is what happens. So you say, okay, Sweetheart is dominant because she went for that water. And then when it comes time to feed hay, we go outside and we toss the hay into the pen, and then Sweetheart and Harry both come towards the hay, and Harry pins his ears and swings his hip, and Sweetheart goes, oh no, and she runs away, and Harry gets the hay first. And then we go, wait a minute, I thought Sweetheart was the dominant one. And so researchers started studying this, started realizing, okay, so dominance in equines must be dependent on the resource, right? So like certain horses are dominant over water, and others are dominant over hay, and others are dominant over feed, and certain stallions are dominant over their mares, and certain like different horses are dominant for different resources. But then we started realizing that dominance was not linear. So let's say like Sweetheart is dominant over Harry for the water, and then Harry is dominant over Bear for the water, but then Bear might be dominant over Sweetheart. So now we have like a little triangle going on instead of it being a linear hierarchy. Hopefully you guys are tracking that and that made sense. So it's not a linear system, and it differs depending on resource. But then the more ethologists were watching horses, the more they realized, wait a minute, not even that is accurate, because sometimes Harry chases Sweetheart off the hay, but sometimes Sweetheart chases Harry off the hay, and sometimes Harry chases Sweetheart off the water, and sometimes Bear chases all of them away, and sometimes they chase Bear away, and it depends, it changes over time. So the reality is we can put these dominance labels on specific interactions, but these labels cannot be successfully applied to a horse over time because it is not linear. It does not apply to every single resource, and it will change over
Learn
time.
anytime, anywhere with Steph K. Equestrian's Equine Behaviorology online courses at skequine.com.